How are you guys today? One Piece stuff. Today, we're talking about an underappreciated character, an underappreciated powerhouse, one of the coldest characters you could think of, and some are speculating the most powerful admiral, but I got you red-handed. Oh, you don't know what I'm talking about. Well, I know the disdain all of you individuals have for Akainu. And the reason why you hate Akainu sometimes is not because of Akainu. It's partially because of how the people hype up Akainu, the people out there. I'm not sure who does things like that. But also what he did to Ace, how he talked to Whitebeard. But Akainu wasn't really wrong, was he? Was he? I'm as huge a fan of Whitebeard as anyone. But even I admit to Akainu he was kind of spitting. Like the whole time Akainu was talking and stuff, I was like, that is so disrespectful. But is he wrong? Okay. Oyaji, we respect him. We understand that. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about the most powerful admiral, maybe? No! I want you guys to understand something. In regards to the admirals, they're all very different in regards to personality, justice, colorway, especially abilities. But I think the one that gets talked the least about is the former admiral in Aokiji, or Kuzan. And I think part of it is obviously because he's not an admiral anymore, but also he is probably the one that's the least flashy. In regards to flashy entrances, I went back and I was rereading chapters with the admirals and just the assimilation or the assembly of the people going to Marineford, and Akainu was not really shown, right? It was Kizaru, it was Smoker, it was Aokiji. We didn't see Sakazuki. Sakazuki had a really flashy entrance, and of course Kizaru, he came in on a cannonball. It was lit. But as far as the admirals that we think about, Kuzan recently, of course, again, he's not an admiral anymore, so he's not popping up on the list, but he should be talked about a bit more. Now, we'll get to the power stuff in a second, because I'm sure that's what you guys are here for. All the Akainu haters are just riled up, like, let's go talk about that dumb magma brat, Kozo. Which of the admirals are closest to your personality? And I'm interested because you can't say Aokiji, right? Because if you're Aokiji, you would be cool, and if you were cool, you would have already hit the sub button, right? But then if you say Kizaru, that means you're fast. If you're fast, you'd be the first one to hit the sub button, right? But then if you say Akainu, that means you're hot, and you'd be attracted to that red, you'd already hit that sub button.
I don't like where this is going.
So that means that whatever personality you're attracted to, that means you should be subscribed to this channel, all right? Maybe you watch a few videos, haven't realized you're not subscribed, now's the time to do so. Okay, anyway, what was Aokiji's original form of justice? Because now it is lazy justice, but originally, what was it? Once we get to that point, we'll answer the question. If you don't know it, you probably need to...
Here we go again.
You probably need to subscribe to the channel because you need to know a little more, and we're going to keep you updated. Okay, so let's talk about Aokiji. So first, the character, the man, the person. Overall, upon his introduction, you could tell this was a laid-back character, typical, one of those characters that, for the most part, don't take things as seriously, probably gonna skate around the rules a bit. And we found out even when he was riding on the seas, they were like, well, Aokiji probably shouldn't be out there, and he was labeled, well, the greatest power in the Marines, which they were talking about the admirals, not him specifically, but the most powerful man in the world. The most powerful man in the world. It was something to that effect. But Kuzan quickly became a likable character because of how he treated the Straw Hats. Yes, he did freeze Luffy and he did whoop all their asses when he met them, but he obviously had a soft spot for Nico Robin. Now, once he found out the history of Nico Robin and Aokiji, where basically he let her go, there's a special sense there that you appreciate because even though he let her go, he maintained this level of somewhat professionalism, if you want to call it, where he told her, hey, just because I let you go, it doesn't mean we're friends. If I ever feel like you're a threat, I will come and find you. But as cold as his heart should be, he definitely had a warm side, even though he had to kill his friend in Saul. So Aokiji throughout the story has shown to have some humanity, right? For the admirals, as strong and powerful as they are and seemingly disconnected from things that would make sense in the grand scheme of things, especially with all the bad that the world government was doing, it was said that Aokiji, he wasn't necessarily fond of the Marines when he joined. We don't know exactly everything about his history because some of it may be non-canon, especially with Zephyr and him going under his tutelage once he joined the Marines. However, we know for a fact it's seemed like he felt like that was the only route, or he was severely influenced by Garp. So hopefully he doesn't adopt any kids, because we know for Garp how he treats his adopted grandchildren. I'm not even kidding. No, I'm kidding. I like Garp now. Back then, we had issues. But Aokiji is definitely a fan of Garp, and he even went to the point that he told Luffy, I'm sparing you because of your grandfather saving my life. So there's a lot to like. Again, the Nico Robin thing, post Enies Lobby, he showed up, right? As a fan, I'm like, okay, what are you gonna do now? I mean, I still didn't think Luffy could compete, and he definitely couldn't at that point, but he showed back up, and his words were profound, right? It just shows the humanity of somebody like that, and it shows why Sengoku chose him to lead the Marines post his era. The thing is, in chapter 433, where Aokiji talked to Nico Robin, we talk about pirates and inherited will, right? And for Aokiji, in a way, he's saying that he inherited the will of his friend Saul by letting Nico Robin escape. I mean, moments like this, it helps you to love and embrace a character in ways you probably normally would not, especially with the fact that they are a Marine and technically they are the antagonists against our protagonist of the story, the Straw Hats. But Aokiji, the soft spot he had for Nico Robin, it was understood, and you enjoyed that part of him, that side to him, because he could have wiped them all out, but he chose not to. He chose to have the conversation. Aokiji's goal was to go to Enies Lobby to end the bloodline of the O'Harans. He was saying that Nico Robin, after 20 years, did not have anywhere to return to, no one to rely on. So basically he was saying, I gave you 20 years, right, to figure out a path. Of course, with a bounty on your head, there's no way you could really have a regular life. We saw with Nico Robin, people were trying to sell her, always trying to apprehend her. So Aokiji understood that. So Aokiji almost did what Kuma did in Thriller Bark, show up at the end and wipe everybody out. But he understood that Nico Robin finally found people she could depend on and be around, to the point that he was like, I'm not sure if I was right or wrong to let you live, but maybe you can show me. Character defining moments like that, they show up in One Piece pretty frequently, if I might add, but moments like this you have to appreciate, because it tells a different side to this character that is a part of the big bad Marines. Aokiji has been a fan favorite or personal favorite of mine ever since this moment, where again, he could have wiped them out, but he chose not to. So now let's fast forward. We go to the Marineford War. Now Aokiji, again, the most underappreciated, I think, Admiral character, not most underappreciated character, probably the most underappreciated powerhouse for a combination of both character and strength. Go to Marineford War. There's several moments there where Aokiji took his foot off the gas, right? Where he's sparing Luffy, he's talking to Luffy, but for the most part, he did his job, right? Even when Whitebeard attacked him, he managed to somehow get around his haki attack, which shows his power. Of course, Whitebeard was saved by Jozu. Who knows where that would go if Jozu didn't step in, but Aokiji had an amazing showing at Marineford. In my opinion, one-shotting Jozu, pretty much casually doing a lot of these things. Now, Aokiji was never always lazy justice. Like I told you guys, the question I asked in the beginning, what type of justice did he have in the past? And Aokiji back then had burning / fired up justice. If you knew that, congrats. I'm happy for you, all right? If you didn't, you gotta click that sub button. I mean, even if you did, you gotta click the sub button, because we gotta keep you around, right? We need smart people around on this channel. But that was the thing. He had burning or fired up justice, and a certain event changed that for him, where he realized, you know what? All that being fired up, it didn't get me anywhere. All these bad things, they're still happening, which goes back to more than likely the Ohara incident. So the power people talk about in regards to Aokiji and why he could be the most powerful admiral comes down to this, or boils down to this, because he's cold and okay, Aokiji had to fight someone like Akainu for 10 days. And so Akainu is heralded as currently the strongest admiral, or you could say the strongest marine, and his powers are devastating. Oda has gone out of his way to hype up Akainu by saying he has the highest offensive capability in a devil fruit, right? With the Magu Magu no Mi. He would find the One Piece in 1 year if he was a protagonist, and also he's the most handsome nigga in the series. He didn't say nigga, but he said he's the most handsome man in the series. He said that for sure. Like, supposed to be the most handsome man, based off the character that Oda used to portray him. Kind of like that. So Oda has a thing for Akainu in a different way. Anyway, Akainu had multiple moments in the story where Oda was somewhat setting him apart from his contemporaries by saying, this is the guy, right? You know, typically for the antagonist, the last one to show up, that's the one that's like, oh, okay. Akainu was the last one to show up. But Aokiji had to fight him for 10 days because the Gorosei recommended Akainu and Sengoku recommended Aokiji. And so that created a schism. I really felt like there wasn't an easy way to pick the person who would lead the Marines, right? Like maybe more people vote. I think the fact that they chose to have two of their strongest people fight, here's the issue with that. And It's something that I don't know. Maybe a lot of people didn't know about but it's weird because two admirals fighting somewhere is gonna make waves. I mean, it literally changed the landscape. I mean, Shanks and Mihawk, they made waves when they were fighting. So anyway, you know how vulnerable the Marines should have been at that time, which somewhat washes away the argument of, hey, we can't deploy two admirals at one time because we don't know who's gonna attack. You have two of your best people fighting. I never thought something like that would happen, but I guess that's what it came down to because Aokiji wasn't budging, and it's so against who he is because he seems to not care about a lot. But for this, he cared about it. He would rather die or leave the Marines than to follow someone like Akainu, which I get it, right? Akainu is radical, but I think so far he's been a decent fleet admiral, but he chose to fight Akainu. Now, he fought Akainu for 10 days on Punk Hazard. They both changed the landscape. That's why when we talk about admirals actually holding back, that's what I'm talking about, because if they did that, right? If they went all out like that, those are the devastating effects of it. However, I digress. The reason why people give Aokiji, the credit or maybe a little bump as being the most strongest admiral, even though he lost to Akainu, is the fact that he was able to fight someone like Akainu for 10 days, even though for most people in their minds, he had the elemental advantage. However, it's been explained to me by several people that ice, or rather chill, that Kuzan has is not necessarily the weakness of Akainu and his magma. So therefore, there are not many people who could fight Akainu for 10 days. They don't have the elemental support to contest magma. Like I try to explain to people from time to time, fighting someone like Akainu is not like how it would be like Whitebeard at Marineford. If you're fighting Akainu where there are no civilians around, people say Akainu doesn't care. He has to care, because if he was just doing whatever he wanted to do and letting the magma flow as freely as he wanted to, he would have killed so many people. Fighting Akainu is basically you're fighting in a volcano. So for you to fight someone like that, you must have some elemental advantage or something to your advantage to the point that you can support yourself while magma is swirling all around you. For Aokiji and his ice, or rather his chill, because he has chill, which I believe for his awakening, he can probably go below Fahrenheit, or some could say absolute zero. And I think that's how he was able to contest against Akainu. So necessarily, Akainu isn't his weakness. That's not how it works with magma and chill. It's actually a great matchup, and Oda set it up in a way where they're pretty much equal in regards to their elements, but if you're using it where Akainu is actually the elemental superior, then Aokiji fighting someone like that for 10 days shows that he's probably more skilled because he's able to hold up for that long. But that is a misconception. I still think the fact that he was able to do that is impressive. And a lot of people, they do talk about, when we talk about the top 30s, right? Why isn't Aokiji right behind Akainu? Well, what I want people to understand, right? Aokiji not being right behind Akainu is not because Aokiji is that far behind Akainu. Yes, he lost and he lost his leg. What this is telling you, and I thought people would understand that without me saying it, but let me say it here. When I put Aokiji at 8 and Akainu at 3 or 4, it's not that I think it's a great distance between the two. It's that I think the people from 4 to 8, the distance between them is probably the same distance between Akainu and Aokiji, right? It is such a small gap. All these people are interchangeable. However, you think of story and the story construct and how things will be going forward, so then you kind of evaluate it based on that. But just putting someone behind them, it's not a huge gap. And I thought that would be clear, but sometimes common sense isn't so common, you gotta buy it. But yeah, I think Aokiji is not the most powerful admiral. I think an argument could be made if Oda comes out and says, hey, he was fighting against his elemental disadvantage, which in the story, that's never been stated, right? That's not what it is at all. Which of course, Akainu can melt the ice that he creates, but with his ability being chill, probably can go as cold as his haki can handle. As we saw from Sanji, where as he's getting stronger, his flames can get hotter because his body can handle it more. So for Aokiji, he can probably go as cold as he needs to go, which could talk about his defeat, whereas he probably went too far to try to contest Akainu. And then there's the underlying thing about Akainu and Aokiji having somewhat of a wink sneaky deal, sneaky link, not a sneaky link, that's something else completely. But they had a plan in place for Aokiji to leave the Marines and work undercover. Aokiji's story is not over. We have a lot to come in regards to him, but I can't wait to find that out. But guys, give me your thoughts. How do you feel about the most underrated powerhouse in One Piece? The most powerful admiral? I don't think so. Definitely a character I can't wait to see more of. But guys, give me your thoughts. Make sure to like the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Follow me on Twitter at BragoDAce. Follow me on Instagram at BragoD.Ace. Thank you to my patrons. I appreciate you guys all so much. Again, guys, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
I start doubting me, I felt lost. I rewrite it.